This group project is on the Global Shark Conservation Plan by Kevin Sinisi, Eric Einhaus, Thomas Kakamo, and Zach Nixon.
So about the movement. So the new Global Shark Conservation Movement is run by an organization called the PEW Charitable Trust. It is an organization striving for global shark conservation efforts. On their website, they say their mission is to work with government leaders, scientists, fishery experts, diplomats, and even survivors of the shark attacks to highlight the fight of sharks from overfishing and to urge countries to take action to conserve them. So what they basically do is they work with the leaders of these countries who tend to have high populations of sharks in their waters, and they educate them of the global decline of sharks, the importance of marine ecosystems, and the benefit of sharks in local economies, or ecotourism. And there are no limits on the number of sharks that can be caught in most countries, and PEW wants to establish those limits in these countries. So these are countries that have cooperated with the organization. Since 2009, this list of countries have established shark sanctuaries and have closed off their executive economic zones from shark fishing. So as you see, these are all the countries. They tend to be island countries with high populations of sharks. And if you add up all the square miles of the waters, it will be 12.6 million square miles of shark fishing that is prohibited in these waters. And this number will continue to increase as the organization works with the countries and continues to strive for shark conservation. So if you see, so this basically gives you a visual of all the countries and all of the shark sanctuaries that this organization has basically developed. As you see, a lot of them are from the Pacific, but there are some that are south of the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic that are also shark sanctuaries. So you can basically see how this organization has strived for shark conservation globally. So how the PEW raises awareness? So they are closely affiliated with the United Nations, and more specifically, the fishing management organizations of these countries that have economies based heavily on fishing. And they strive for science-based management of sharks. So they're basically saying this science-based management is basically how sharks are affected biologically by overfishing of sharks, and also how sharks play a big role in their ecosystems. And they work with these fishery managements to make plans to conserve the sharks in their exclusive economic zones. And what they do basically is they emphasize the problem to these countries of shark overfishing, which resulted in a general decrease in all elasmobranch species, including sharks and rays. And they educate these fisheries about how most of them, or many species of sharks, are close to extinction or already in extinction, in hopes the word will be passed on to the fishermen of these countries.
Okay, so this is how the PEW commands new shark ray regulations. And in 2016, working with the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species, the PEW announced that silky sharks, Dusha sharks, and Morbello rays are added to the global conservation list. This would mean that any species of silky shark, Dusher, or Morbello rays are to be prohibited to be caught by fishermen for their fins, skin, or meat. The organization was able to establish this globally via the UN. This was a huge global success for the conservation effort, as more than 50 countries signed on as co-sponsors for one or more of these species. And as a quote by Luke Warwick, who is director of the PEW, said, "This vote is a huge step towards ensuring the survival of these larger sharks and ray species, which continue to be the greatest risk of extinction because of the value of their fins and gills." Here's just a picture of the three species that are said before. There's the pelagic thresher shark, the silky shark, and the Morbella ray, and that was taken close to, and that those species are close to extinction according to the Apex 2 of the Conservation of International Trade of Endangered Species. Here's just a little insight of Hong Kong. Hong Kong boosts penalties on illegal trade of shark and rays. As if you didn't know, Hong Kong is the hub of the shark trade, legal and illegally. About 50% of all shark trade globally passes through Hong Kong, which means that 63 to 273 million sharks are killed for their fins. In January 2017, Hong Kong took a step in the right direction to diminish illegal activity. By a 49-4 vote, the council passed an amendment that raises maximum fines and prison sentences for those convicted of illegally selling or buying products derived from any species listed under Apex 2 of the Conservation of International Trade of Endangered Species of wild Fiona and Fluna. And those species include the thresher shark, oceanic whitetip, hammerhead sharks, Morbella rays, and 11 other species that are listed under the Apex 2. Trade is also allowed via permission for any animal listed under Apex 2. The maximum sentence was raised from 2 years to 10 years of prison if you're caught, and the maximum fine was raised from $6,300 to $1.3 million. And here's just a picture of the Hong Kong shark fin market. As you can see, there's all different types of fins that are organized in different sections. Each fin represents a different species of shark that's been caught. And right there's probably close to over 1,000 just in that picture alone. So you can only imagine how much are actually in the warehouse itself.
The Philippines are home to a wide variety of shark and ray species. These species have significant cultural importance, and efforts have been made to preserve them. This has led to the Philippines becoming a leader in the shark ecotourism. They hold white shark diving, reef tip diving, and they've even passed a bill that is a leader in fishing management. Just a couple of pictures, some advertisements. So why do sharks need protection? Sharks are a keystone species, which means that if they vanish, everything goes with them. So nearly 50% of all species are threatened, which means that there's a lot of land under threat. So each year, somewhere between 63 to 273 million sharks are killed, and for a variety of reasons. So sharks tend to gravitate towards productive ecosystems. So if there are sharks around, then that usually means that the ecosystem is healthy. In addition, as larger animals are caught, the surviving animals tend to be younger or smaller, which has negative impacts on the reproductive cycle, and just in a continuing spiral that eventually means that it's no longer productive to target a species. So, and sharks, in addition to all of this, have a unique number of adaptations that could yield interesting technologies, such as their denticles, which could inspire dive suits or hulls that are significantly faster than current technology.
So a brief rundown on the cost of shark fishing. Even though many countries have banned shark fishing, there are still a few that practice the art today. Sharks are mainly hunted for their fins. Those fins are put into some sort of soup, and the fins can sell as high as $740 per kilo. The high value fins compared to the usually lower value of the rest of the shark meat creates an economic incentive for the wasteful practice of slicing off a shark's fins and discarding the body at sea. Other conservation efforts that have been made, one by the NOAA also takes part in helping. They help regulate commercial and recreational shark fishing within the Atlantic Ocean. They also partner up with 3 other fishery management councils and help them with shark regulation in the Pacific Ocean. Fins Naturally Attached is a conservation plan put in place by the NOAA. The purpose of this plan is to go overseas and provide technical support to other conservation plans in other countries. The World Wildlife Fund, shortened by WWF, has been working through TRAFFIC, which is one of the largest wildlife trade monitoring networks, to regulate the trade of shark fins and ultimately diminish the market demand for it. They've begun to develop new ways to reduce bycatch of sharks by creating new improvised fish aggregating devices, also known as FADs. designs for these fishermen to use when attracting large schools of fish. The WWF has also urged government figureheads at the CITES meeting in 2013 to strongly regulate the trade of 3 different species of hammerhead sharks, poor beagle sharks, oceanic white-tip sharks, and manta rays to reduce the overfishing of these species. Just a list of the species that are affected currently. Some species that are endangered, such as the daggernose shark, the small-toothed sawfish, the scalped hammerhead shark in both the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. And then some species that are listed as threatened is the narrow-nosed smoothhound shark, the scalped hammerhead shark in the Central Atlantic, and the common guitarfish. And a brief outlook for the future for shark conservation. The top 10 countries that hunt sharks are in this order: Indonesia, India, Spain, Taiwan, Argentina, Mexico, Pakistan, the United States, Japan, and Malaysia. Just the top 3 countries alone, that are Indonesia, India, and Spain, account for 35% of all sharks that are taken from the ocean annually. And pretty much the only way we can restore the sharks to their natural numbers is by way of these countries and targeting them for their shark fishing. Although conservation efforts have helped restore the number of sharks, the top shark hunting countries must take action to reduce the overfishing of sharks.
This group project is on the Global Shark Conservation Plan by Kevin Sinisi, Eric Einhaus, Thomas Kakamo, and Zach Nixon.